Shabbat Shalom, Maranatha. Welcome back to the Septuagint versus the Masoretic YouTube channel. Today we're looking at Joshua chapter 8. In this chapter, there are 35 verses. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to start looking at verse 7, where we see some interesting differences start to appear. So in verse 7, talking about the invasion of the city, we're supposed to go into the city, versus seize upon the city, and there's an addition of, for Adonai, your Elohim will deliver it into your hand. Verse 8 continues with the differences. It shall be, when you have taken the city, notice that this is only in the Masoretic text, you shall set the city on fire. This is not in the Septuagint. They're not supposed to do that. Maybe at least not yet. Verse 9 adds as well that Joshua lodged that night among the people. Our first significant difference is verse 11. It says here, eastward versus the north side. So if we're looking at the logistics of where everything happened, it's very different. It's an addition of, now there was a valley between them and Ai. Verse 12, he took about 5,000 men and set them to lie in ambush. Verse 13, in addition, when they had set the people, even all the host that was on the north of the city, their liers in wait on the west. Completely absent from the manuscript, this verse. I'm not going to read the rest of that. Verse 14, and another addition, lots of additions here, a time appointed before the plain. Okay. Verse 15, retreated versus made as if they were beaten before them. Not wildly different there. And fled by the way of the wilderness added. Verse 18, we have an omission of, and the liers in wait shall rise up quickly out of their place. So that's a strategic event that should be noted, but it was omitted from the Masoretic. Verse 20, add on the people that fled to the wilderness turned back upon the pursuers. So it's like the uponúº card. They flipped the battle, and they gained the advantage. Verse 24, in the mountain on the descent, from where they pursued them, even to the end. Okay, so this mountain is on the descent, going downhill, versus in the wilderness. So it's not even a mountain anymore, it's a wilderness, it's a desert, wherein they chased them when they were all fallen on the edge of the sword. So this is talking about, in the Septuagint, location, geography, areas. Here it's talking in the Masoretic about how they killed them on the edge of the sword. Joshua returned versus all the Israelites returned. So it's only Joshua that's being spoken about here in the Septuagint. Verse 26, for Joshua drew not his hand back. This was an addition. Wherewith he stretched out the spear until he had utterly destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai. Verse 27, there's an addition, only the cattle. Verse 29, gallows. He hanged the king of Ai, or Guy, on a gallows. This was a contraption they had to build, versus hanging him on a tree, which was a natural occurring creation. Cast into the pit. They took his body from the tree, cast it into a pit, versus cast it at the entering of the gate of the city. That's a very foreboding symbol or sign for people to see. So it's one thing to put it into a pit, which is like burying him, putting a heap of stones over him. So they did bury him in a pit, versus let's just present him as a public display. Let's make a public example of this king. And they raised thereon a great heap of stones. So why would they present this body, cast it at the entering of the gate, just leaving a body on the floor there, and then putting a heap of stones on top of his body? No, that's not the way you bury a body, period. That's not according to Torah. It's not according to any standard of Adonai. You're supposed to bury a body, even animals, but especially humankind, Adam kind. You bury the body in a pit and you cover it up properly. Okay, verse 33, scribes versus officers. 35, we have an omission of charged Joshua. Not charging like physically, but commanding Joshua. Moses charged Joshua, okay. There's an omission of men as well. The men and the women. So it's not just the women and the little ones. It's the men are included. They're not canceled here. And that's it. It's a short chapter. Actually, not really a short chapter, but at least kept it brief today for this video. Thank you very much for your time. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Until next time, we're going to look at Joshua chapter 9. So shalom or salam and maranatha.